As Tranmere welcomes Sunderland to Prenton Park. John Aldridge's side have already established themselves as giant killers this season. Rovers knocked West Ham out of the FA Cup and have taken 2 Premiership scalps on their way to the semi-finals of the Worthington Cup.
John Aldridge is a former FA Cup winner. Indeed, the Tranmere Rovers manager was very keen to remind his players.
I can hold this because I've held it before.
Smiles now, but Tranmere Rovers' awful start to their league season left the former Liverpool striker pondering resignation.
There was a couple of games where I really did have a good look at myself and whether I needed the hassle and the pressure that was on at that time.
But then things changed for Aldridge. At the bottom of his rainbow he found a pot, not of gold, but of silver. The cup competitions would revive their season. First the Worthington Cup and a 5-goal demolition of Coventry City. David Kelly scored a hat-trick. Then came the FA Cup and the visit of West Ham. Once more a Premiership side were beaten. Tranmere's league form was also improving. Back to the Worthington Cup a few days later and Middlesbrough were overturned as Andy Parkinson scored one of the goals of the season. Unlike neighbours Liverpool and Everton, Tranmere are a small club, even by First Division standards.
The crowd factor's not the best, but we get by. We're losing money like most clubs in our league, but you've got to, vie with that and try and bring some revenue in to keep yourself afloat.
Howie must envy opposite number this weekend, Peter Reid. Instead, though, it's admiration for his fellow Scouser.
I've known Peter for quite a long time, especially in my days when I was at Oxford playing against him at Everton. I've got tremendous respect for him. And for me, barring Alex Ferguson, he's the best manager about.
Aldridge, though, did get one over on Reid when they last met in the FA Cup, just 2 years ago. Aldridge was still playing in those days. Now the attack is led by a former Sunderland striker.
We've played some great teams, Borough, Coventry and West Ham, and been very fortunate that we won all 3 games. Now we're playing arguably the best out of those other 3 teams.
Some smaller clubs can go several years without creating a cup upset. Tranmere are bidding for their 4th of the season. Guy Havord, Sky Sports.
Round after beating Sunderland 1-0 at Prenton Park. They will keep their fingers crossed that they stay there, though, after controversy reigned at the end of the match when Rovers had a player sent off, but still finished the game with 11 men on the pitch.
Premiership high flyers they may be, but there were plenty of fans of Sunderland who had a bad feeling about this particular 1-1. With justification, as it turned out, on a day when nothing fell the way of the visitors. Tranmere scored the only goal of the match in the 25th minute.
And Tranmere are in front. It's Wayne Allison.
Peter Reid's men then began to throw everything at Tranmere, including, it seemed, at least 2 kitchen sinks. 10 minutes before the break, Sunderland had a penalty appeal turned down. Nicky Summerby was upended just outside the area, as it turned out. From the resultant free kick which Summerby took, Alex Ray's effort was well saved by Akterberg. In the second half, the onslaught continued. This perhaps the best of a string of Sunderland chances.
Chris Makin on his left foot. Oh! Spectacularly tipped over.
As time began running out, the contrast between the 2 sets of supporters said it all. But there was one last twist to come in this match. With seconds remaining, Tranmere's Clint Hill was sent off for a second bookable offence. So what, I hear you say, Tranmere would have no trouble hanging on for the whistle, would they? Well, no, they wouldn't, but in a mix-up involving the 4th official and shirt numbers, a sub was brought on without another player coming off, and Tranmere still had 11 men on the park. Sunderland and then the officials realised the mistake, and the game was reduced to confusion and farce. When the numbers were finally sorted out, Rob Harris, the ref, restarted the match deep into extra time, then promptly blew the final whistle. A certain Mr. P. Reid was unimpressed, to say the very least, and the officials needed a police escort to reach their changing rooms.
It's the last minute of the game. They never scored off the free kick, and it didn't make no difference whatsoever. It's up to them. If they want to try and get in through the back door, that's entirely up to Sunderland Football Club.
It's very difficult so soon, but I mean, would there be any consideration of asking for, a rematch?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's not down to me. All I'd say about the game is it was a very difficult game for us. Tranmere worked socks off, 1-1-0. I was very, very pleased with my players. I thought we played some great stuff, created chances. Weren't good enough on the day. Whatever happens is nothing to do with me.
Well, the FA have said they'll investigate the matter as soon as possible and hope to have a decision by Monday morning. We haven't heard the last of an extraordinary cup tie. Phil Edwards, Sky Sports.
Won the tie 1-0, but they briefly had 11 men on the field despite having Clint Hill sent off. An FA decision is expected tomorrow.
Another extraordinary chapter in Cup history should be concluded on Monday morning by the FA. That's when officials will try to sort out the confusion of Saturday's game at Tranmere. Then the inability of the referee and his assistants to count to 10 allowed the home side to send on a replacement for a man who'd already been sent off. John Aldridge's team defended their lead with a player too many for little more than a minute, but rules were broken and calls are growing for a replay.
Well, they will have the reports of everybody concerned. They'll obviously speak to the referee today and the assistant referee. They'll have all the information before them. There are people involved, 2 or 3 people on the Challenge Cup committee, officials of the FA. They will consider all the information tomorrow, as I understand it. To my mind, there's only one decision there'll be, and that's there's got to be a replay.
Indeed, replays seem all the rage at the moment. West Ham and Aston Villa meet again in the Worthington Cup on Tuesday after Manny Omayimni came on as substitute whilst cup tied. That despite West Ham winning the original tie. There was trouble too in last season's FA Cup when Arsenal broke an unwritten rule and scored against Sheffield United just after the Blades had given them the ball back. The game was replayed. But despite the initial fury at Prenton Park over this latest incident, the managers involved seem remarkably relaxed about it all.
Without we've got beat 1-0, but there was a rule breached. I mean, and Sunderland Football Club didn't breach that rule. It's not up to me to decide what happens, but you know, as a manager of a football club, I've got to stick up for my football club, and it was nothing to do with us. Sammy got a goal, we didn't, but there was a rule breached.
It didn't make no difference whatsoever. It's up to them. If they want to try and get in through the back door, that's entirely up to Sunderland Football Club.
Many on Merseyside will think it tough on Tranmere though if they're made to replay the game. Wayne Allison's goal may not prove to be the winner after all. Jim Cockin, Sky Sports.